You know what annoys me the most? Is how much we've been bombarded to believe that love comes from another person. I used to struggle with this badly. I still do a little bit, but I'm more aware of it. But the thing is, because we have been bombarded to believe that love comes from another person, we're so derived and so driven into, where's my soulmate, my twin flame? Oh, I'm looking for my other half. Zeus created two individuals to be separate into one individual, and they spend their entire lifetime looking for one another. And I'm here to share with you that we have been given a distorted perspective around love and connections. And because of this, we have created so many trauma responses around love to the point we sabotage the very thing that we want. But I'm here to share with you today is that there's nothing wrong with your trauma responses. It's just that you need to understand them. And why is it that you propel away relationships that you truly want? So on today's episode, we're going to dive deep into understanding 3 trauma responses and how they sabotage relationships. And I guarantee you today, I'm going to share with you the truth behind connections and the reasoning for them, and understanding what love really is all about. What is gooch, you beautiful awakened ones? I'm loving how my hair is naturally just growing. I'm fucking adoring the natural beauty of life and self, boo-boo. Went on a tangent. What is going on, beautiful awakened ones? Welcome back on another episode on Embracing the Ascension series with your homegirl, Brittany Fontanez. I just recognized new things about myself, so I'm gonna reintroduce myself into I am an intuitive channeler and I am a activator. Meaning that on this channel I speak about spiritual development, emotional awareness, and I do guided readings for your zodiac sign, and I talk about things I feel need to be talked about because it's our divine right to know more than what we have been told. And what I mean by activator is that I'm here to trigger you, to share with you what is it that you're not seeing within yourself, so you can feel it, heal it, overcome it, and be who you're really meant to be, and get rid of those limitations, those limiting beliefs, and those distorted perspectives you have of yourself that are no longer serving you. So other than that, beautiful beings, if you want to know anything about me or my business inquiries, all that information down in the description box below. As well as I do have a current special going on. I do 20-minute phone call mini readings for you if you need clarity on your journey. So like I said, all that information down in the description box below, as well as going directly to my website, to my merch, to my courses. Everything is down there for you guys. But other than that, beautiful beings, I am so excited to share this with you because everything I share with you on my channel, I've experienced all of this myself, and I've gained tremendous amount of wisdom to the point that not a lot of people have been able to help me create a guideline in order for me to heal myself. And since I know that I've been able to heal myself on levels that not a lot of people are able to, I know it's my duty to share these golden nuggets with you guys. So I'm excited to share with you this most important one. And I do have a video that went viral on TikTok all about why we fear love relationships. If you want to know any of my information on my social medias, all that will be down in the description box below. But other than that, beautiful beings, let's get into 3 trauma responses that sabotage relationships. Now, before we even get started, I want to share with you guys that everything I'm sharing with you today is not for you to judge yourself. It's for you to learn yourself and love yourself. When we're on this journey and we desire things in our life, especially a connection with someone that we feel is going to understand and resonate with our soul, it is very important that we recognize that we have to reparent ourselves. The reason why things happen the way that they do in our adulthood is because we think and feel and act what we believe to be from our childhood, and that ripples into our adulthood, and that affects every single area of our life. When we are not aware of our childhood traumas and responses, then we will never be aware of what needs to be changed in order to receive what we desire. So it's very important to understand that this whole entire video I'm going to share with my whole channel, my whole being, my whole intention is to share with you that it's never about judging yourself. It's about learning yourself. And when you learn yourself, you learn to love yourself. You learn to give yourself that love that you've been neglected as a child. And when you give it to you, then you know how to be your own fulfillment. And therefore, you'll be able to be the attractor of what you want rather than the chaser. That's the goal, boo-boo. Now let's get into, before we get into the 3 trauma responses that sabotage relationships, we have to understand signs of relationship traumas. Don't mind, there's a dog in the background. We have to be aware of signs of relationship traumas. Once we can't change what we're now aware of. So we have to become aware of why is it that I'm receiving the same type of energy, but in a different face, in a different body, in a different person. Why is it that I still act this way when new potential relationships come into my life? So let's get into signs that you do have relationship traumas. You have a lot of flashbacks of how relationships don't work out. You feel a lot of fear and a lot of, distress. You have a lot of fear towards your relationships, a lot of distress, to the point you probably want to flight, meaning you want to avoid the situation because it's so overwhelming intensely, emotionally, or you want to fight because you want to prove your point or you want to prove yourself. Other signs that you have relationship trauma is guilt and shame. These are very, very big ones when it comes to relationships, because people can have a sense of being so detached because they don't feel worthy of relationships, because they think they're not deserving of it, or they feel hopeless because they think they'll never receive what they want because they think something's wrong with them. So these are subtle signs of relationship traumas. There's 2 more actually. You have a huge amount of distrust in people, huge amount of distrust, and that actually is another sign of feeling suspicious. You have a hypersensitivity of your potential love partners because you're so hypersensitive and suspicious of who they are and how they act when their behaviors change suddenly. And the last one, this is a crazy one I have recently learned upon my journey, is that I knew I had relationship traumas is because I had a lot of nightmares. I would never forget when my last relationship was the most intenseful relationship I ever been in, that made me have the most pivotal spiritual awakening, that it made me realize I had a lot of nightmares. I would think about this person, have nightmares of this person. Even before that person, in past relationships, I would have nightmares of the partner I was with. And it was very, very scary, but it made me realize, whoa, that's relationship traumas. And how are these signs regarding relationship traumas? Is because it's like you're over anxious, overthinking, scared of what potentially can happen within the relationship. So those are signs of relationship traumas. Now that we're aware of these signs, how can these signs trickle in to trauma responses that make you sabotage relationships? And the first one is, before I even get into this, what I'm going to share with you does sound similar to the attachment styles, meaning you got secure, you got anxious, you got avoidant. They sound very similar. But the signs I'm going to share with you with trauma responses dive deeper into these attachment styles, because these attachment styles do teach you about, how you're neglecting relationships or repelling relationships. But when I mean dive deeper, this is the subtle sign of in-depth of your trauma responses from your childhood rather than you're in your adulthood. So the first one is dismissive avoidant. This is one trauma. All these trauma responses I have dealt with, I still deal with a little bit, but this is why I can understand it and actually share with you guys. Dismissive avoidant. This is a very interesting trauma response because it really is a subtleness of insecurity, meaning that you have an insecure avoidant style, meaning that as a child, you've been neglected and rejected by your caregivers, so you fear losing your independence, meaning that because you've been neglected and rejected from your caregivers as a child, that kind of gave you the belief that I have to take care of myself, that no one has my back. So therefore, in adulthood, you fear losing your independence, so you choose to be a player. You choose to be polyamorous. You choose, third-party relationships, because it's not because you don't want relationships, it's because you fear them, because you fear rejection, and you fear being neglected from all the beautiful attention you give to one person. So that is one trauma response that can sabotage relationships, is because you haven't dealt with your neglection or your rejection. Here's the thing, you guys. Neglection and rejection can never hurt you if you don't see it that way. Your perspective of how someone treats you is everything. It does not mean if someone doesn't want you, it does not mean you're rejected. It just means it's not meant to be, and that's okay. Don't internalize how people treat you because of who they are and their perspective upon love. Remember that, you guys. So that is one trauma response that sabotages relationships. Now, the second one is fearful avoidance. This, I have actually been with a lot of people who have been emotionally unavailable who are in this trauma response, and that is fearful avoidant. That means in childhood you have dealt with abuse. Now, here's the thing. I have been this way myself, because the reasoning why we attract emotionally unavailable people is because, we got to be honest, we're emotionally unavailable. Like I said in the beginning, we don't chase, we attract. We are magnetically manifestors, meaning we always are energetic frequency. So we're always attracting. We will attract what we are, not what we want. It's very important to recognize that, you guys. So, since I was emotionally unavoided, I attracted people who are emotionally unavoided too. So this is how it led to fearful avoidance. Because as a child, you have dealt with abuse, you have been around a lot of chaos, and you have been neglected in the process. And not only that, your caretakers, your caregivers were the source of your pain. So you're afraid to be alone, but at the same time, you're afraid of closeness and intimacy because you fear trusting others. Because you put so much trust in your caregivers that they showed you that, they can't be trusted. So you grew up believing that you can't trust people. And this is why you're so fearful of love and avoidance, because you feel that love is the source of pain rather than love itself. But I'm here to share with you guys that love is not pain. Pain is pain. Love is never pain. The person who gave you that source of pain is not love. It's just the person. Love never hurts. Love never hurts. Love never neglects. It's just a person. Please remember that. Don't fear relationships and don't avoid them. Just recognize, why do you fear being alone, but why do you fear intimacy? And from my own experience, I have realized I have struggled this with so much in my life. For example, I have had relationships that I manifested, but I sabotaged them because I wanted it so bad when I was alone, but when I got it, I didn't know how to appreciate it because I was fearful of intimacy. Because as a child, I always saw my mom push people away. And then she would regret it. She would fucking regret it. She still kind of regrets it with my dad to this day. But he had to do what he had to do to heal himself and save himself. And I'll never be mad at him for that. And I'll never be mad at my mom for the way she treated my dad. Because they both didn't know better. And that's the thing. Your parents didn't know better. That's why when they inflicted their pain onto you, it wasn't because of you. It's because they were inflicted that pain onto them. And because they didn't heal it, what happens when you despise what you don't forgive? You become it. So never be angry at your parents because they didn't know better. Could they have done better? Of course, but they didn't know better. So don't hold on to that resentment, because when you hold on to the resentment of how your parents treated you, then you're neglecting your own happiness and preventing yourself from receiving that loving relationship that you solely deserve. So question, why do you fear being alone, but why do you fear intimacy? And I guarantee you, between that gap, you will figure out how to trust within yourself and how to trust in life again and to forgive those who didn't know how to teach you what love is. So Now let's get into the last one. The last trauma response that sabotages relationships, and that is anxious preoccupied. This was me highly. Like I said in the beginning, I struggled with this so much, you guys. Tears come into my eyes now as I say this, because I had one generational trauma. What I mean by generational, it was passed down the generational line of my family, especially the feminines, and I noticed it within my own father as well, is that we are so codependent. We're so codependent. And I would never forget when my last relationship, like I said, it was the most spiritual awakening of my life. And that was when I really had to face my abandonment. That's when I really had to face my loneliness. That's when I really had to face my codependency. And it was the most traumatic experience of my life. And I know that people may think that healing is like a lovey-dovey, like love and light thing. It's really not. It's the most ugliest, scariest, traumatic process to go through. But the thing is, when you have your awakening and you start to be aware of your traumas and your pains and your suppression of emotions, it's going to hurt. It's going to be scary. But the thing is, you are helping yourself. You're serving yourself. You're learning to love yourself again. And that is the goal. So because I've struggled so much with codependency, I felt it in my being that I was holding on to something that I didn't know what I was holding on to. And it felt so uncomfortable. And when I finally faced all of this inadequacy within myself, I realized how to be secure when it comes to love relationships, and including the relationship with myself. And everything I'm sharing with you is to teach you how to have a relationship with yourself. So my parents and my family and my bloodline have struggled with this. All the feminists give so much so quickly, but they're so codependent they don't want to let go because they're scared of being left alone. And that is anxious, preoccupied. So you had a consistent childhood change, meaning you're always moving around, always moving apartment, home to home to home, school to school. And that was me. I was going to school, home to home. My mom was getting evicted left and right. My dad had to leave her, all of this stuff. So I always felt unsafe. I always felt like there was no roots. There was no grounding. And I still struggle with not being fully grounded. And that's crazy. I'm a fucking earth sign. And I feel so ungrounded, but I'm so awake up here. But my lower chakras are so ungrounded, but I've been working on that. And that's the thing, you guys. Love yourself. Just love yourself. Everything you have not been given as a child, you're learning to give to yourself. In order to have that loving relationship, you got to learn to co-parent yourself again in order to get that love that you know you deserve by first being it. So, anxious, preoccupied. You've been a consistent childhood change, inconsistent parents to the point that they alternated from extreme attentiveness, always giving you attention, or extreme coldness, always being very emotionally unavailable or distant at times. So it was always hot and cold. So people who are very anxious in relationships, the reason why you sabotage them is because you become too clingy and too needy, because, and the reason why people are wishy-washy or in and out of your life is because you've experienced that with your parents. So, as well as you get very anxious, you get very clingy, needy, it's because you become very hypersensitive to any changes within your partner. And here's the thing, it gets to a point where your anxiety drives people away and you create this self-fulfilling prophecy of abandonment. And it's because you had parents who weren't attentive and who were, so that made you question your worth. So therefore you lack boundaries because you want people to see you, but you don't want people to leave you. So at the same time, you become anxious and clingy to the point you have to change your identity, meaning you become hypersensitive to connect to everyone's emotions and thoughts outside of you, so you can find a way to reel them in to see you. And that's a form of manipulation, because trying to be the nice guy or the nice girl is really you trying to manipulate someone to see you. So therefore you got to change yourself in order to get that person to give you what you want. And this is how the anxious, preoccupied could come as you always being so focused on another person. So these are 3 trauma responses that can sabotage relationships. And the whole goal why I shared with all of these with you today is because I want you to get to a point of a secure person. And what a secure person is that doesn't sabotage relationships is someone who did have supportive caretakers, but like I said, you are learning how to become your supportive caregiver. And if you don't know how to, then please go check out my other videos on inner child wounds, father wound, and mother wound. And when you get down on understanding your trauma wounds, I guarantee you'll be able to come back to this video and understand your type of trauma responses towards relationships. But since you're learning how to re-co-parent yourself into becoming a secure type of person when it comes to relationships, what's beautiful about becoming secure is that you share your emotions to a healthy extent, and you do not fear if people abandon or reject you because you have a healthy view of yourself and others. And that is the goal, you guys. I want you to become secure, because when you start to create a new self-image, when you start to perceive yourself as the person that is worthy and deserving of love, regardless of what you've been through, then you realize you don't need to hold on to the past, and the past that doesn't define you. If anything, the past can help you create an even more powerful story to make you realize how lovable you are. So other than that, beautiful beings, I was really excited to share all that with you, because I've currently been struggling with that in my life since I'm kind of allowing a new love relationship to come in. And it's really nerve-wracking, but being aware of all this has helped me realize how worthy we are of love, but also recognizing that love doesn't come from another person. It comes within ourselves. And when we learn how to give that love like a parent to a child to ourselves, then we learn how to be the own lover to our own self. And therefore we'll be able to allow that in and recognize that our fulfillment does not come from another person. We're already fulfilled, whole, and complete. Having another person just adds to that. So other than that, beautiful beings, if you want to dive more deep into this in your own personal journey, then go ahead, book an appointment with me today by going to the link in the description and going on my website and doing that. But other than that, beautiful beings, if this resonated with you, if this helped you, please hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, as it will help the algorithm of this video to get out to other people who are wanting to hear this and need to hear this. So other than that, beautiful beings, I love you guys so much. Thank you so much for being here and trusting me on your journey. And until then, I'll see you on the next one. And only love.